The Shooting Range. In this episode, Pages of History, we'll make our own Apache. Round Study, the IKV-91, and Metal Beasts, the long-awaited German IFV. The Marder infantry fighting vehicle, German for Martin, is one of the longest-serving vehicles in the German army that started as early as in 1971 and remains in use even today. Thanks to its reliability, amazing weaponry, and driving performance, the Marder is often arguably called one of the best IFVs in history. Today, we're going to talk about modification A1-, found at the battle rating of 7.3. Its armament includes a 20mm autocannon, 2 machine guns, and the Milan anti-tank missile complex. There are smoke launchers as well. The engine compartment is situated in the front, next to the driver's seat, while the commander and the gunner sit in the turret. Much like any other IFV, the Marder doesn't have any armor against tank rounds. The engine compartment, being in the front, or the large space in the rear can save you in some situations, but that's it. After all, this is mostly a mobile support machine, not a frontline tank. If the Marder encounters any heavy armor, it can use its Milan ATGMs with a penetration rate of 530mm. If you want to ensure the destruction or at least a long knockout for your enemy, aim for the center of their frontal armor. This way, the cumulative flow will hit more modules and crew members. Keep in mind, though, that you cannot launch an ATGM while on the move, so plan your route accordingly, considering where you can stop to make a launch. Speaking of moving around, this IFV has an amazing level of mobility. It can quickly accelerate up to 40 kph even on soft ground, while its top speed is 75 kph, both forward and in reverse. With such a driving performance, you can find your way into the most unexpected places, or even jump your enemy. Don't risk too much, though, especially with your autocannon. The best rounds it has can only penetrate 57mm of armor at point-blank range. It's compensated by an amazing aiming speed, which gives the Marder a good advantage in tight urban skirmishes with other IFVs and anti-air vehicles. The gun has very little sway, even despite the fact that it lacks stabilization. Basically, the Marder is an excellent support machine when fighting enemy tanks. With some armor support from your allies, you can send a few enemies to the hangar screen with ease. In other situations, it can become the field ambulance and help your teammates with repairs or extinguishing fires. The first pure fire support helicopter, the Cobra, showed an amazing level of combat efficiency in Vietnam. It was a revolution in frontline assault aircraft that reshaped its usage cases and changed the rules of the game forever. The Cobra was also made in a shorter period as 6 months, which was more shocking than you can imagine. Furthermore, it evolved rapidly, switching from the assault helicopter role to a flying tank destroyer one. The US was quick to offer NATO members its newest chopper, or purchase a license to make their own for a higher price, of course. Why? Well, Europe's threat from the east wasn't former Vietnamese farmers with guns and a handful of T-54s or PT-76s. It was elite Soviet tank battalions. Imagine if they had launched an assault on Paris, or Frankfurt, or London, or Lisbon. How do you stop this tsunami of steel and destruction? Light helicopters wouldn't do much since they're easy to drop down even for ground forces. and you cannot install fully fledged fire control systems. Now, the Cobra was just the right thing. And that's where things became interesting. As soon as the Italian army officials mentioned some foreign helis, the main local helicopter company shouted a rebuke that could raise the dead. No! The Augusta's management didn't want to build them or even perform maintenance on them. More than that, they provided a number of reasons why Italy should build their own anti-tank helicopter. The Cobra and the newer Apache weren't suitable for the Italian Alps, they said. They were too heavy, they said. Too slow, they chimed, with all the wrong kinds of equipment and all the wrong missiles. The Americans turned the Huey into the Cobra in half a year. Why can't Italy create their own anti-tank helicopter from, say, the A109? No sooner said than done. Oh, well, done. They started making it, but with numerous hiccups. They suddenly found out that an anti-tank helicopter should be very different from the flying supercar, the A109, and a whole other set of principles should be followed. Survivability alone requires a complete redesign of onboard module placement. Italy had no experience in it, and neither production nor testing environments could match the required levels. And no foreign help nor expertise could be used, naturally. That's how the Italian anti-tank helicopter project lasted a whopping 15 years, from getting the task to making the first batches. It was made worse by the fact that the army thought they needed less than 100 of these machines, which couldn't cover the costs of such an expensive and long design process. Italy had tried to invite other NATO members, like Germany and France, but they never managed to convince them, so they had to make do on their own. By the time the A129 Mangusta finally took off, there were no Soviet tank armada anymore, and the Italian anti-tank helicopter lost its whole purpose. The Italian Apaches, in all their years of service, only took part in a few peacemaking missions in Africa, and all their ludicrously expensive missiles never found a single target. Previously, in our round study, we tested rounds of the same type with little difference in their specs. But today, we're going to compare two completely different rounds found in the ammo pool of the Swedish IKV-91 light tank. Besides the HEATFS, it has a curious HE round with a surprising amount of explosives for the 90mm caliber, almost 2.5 kilograms of TNT equivalent. Let's start with the former. Its penetration rate is 400mm at normal impact, enough to hit most enemies in the front. Let's try it on the King Tiger. The Swedish round has no problem penetrating its thick front plate, and the only thing saving it from instant destruction is the large space found behind the armor. That's why, in battle, you should first shoot at the gunner and the driver so that your enemy won't fight back or run away. A similar situation happens with the American T-34 heavy tank. The only difference is that the T-34 can shoot back even with no gunner, since its commander can control the large caliber machine gun. Getting to the commander from the front is impossible, even with a HEATFS, so you might have to retreat. Another frequent enemy is the Soviet T-54. Dealing with it is pretty straightforward. You can shoot either at the turret front at the gunner's side, to the right of the gun for us, or at the hull where the driver sits. Again, the right side for us. Don't aim at the fuel tanks though, since the cumulative flow is unlikely to cause serious damage there. The HEATFS is pretty good against other light tanks too. Take this T-92 for instance. If you want to one-shot it, aim for the turret ring below the gun, the center of the hull, or its right side. In all these cases, the round will incapacitate 3 crew members at once. Now let's take a look at the HE round with a penetration rate of 29mm. It's not even close to what you need against heavy tanks, of course, but good enough for lighter targets. We'll start with the T-92. Its hull and turret are protected by plates with a thickness between 12 and 28mm, which means nothing for this shell. The only exception is the front of the turret with almost 32mm of armor. It isn't an issue either, though. When the HE round hits it, it then destroys the thin roof of the hull and everything inside it. This trick can also be pulled off with some medium tanks, by the way, like Panthers A and G. The German Cats have a roof with only 16 to 17mm of thickness, so hitting the lower part of the gun mantlet with an HE round is a guaranteed frag. Anyway, the most important part of a large HE shell's damage is the pressure. You don't even need a direct hit on a vehicle with an open compartment. Just send a round in their general direction and the enemy is as good as done. Let's sum up. The Ike KV-91's main ammo is, of course, the HEATFS. It's great against heavy and medium tanks. But the HE is great against light machines and open compartments. Why aim for vulnerabilities when you can simply shoot at the enemy and quickly switch to another? Now, it's high time we answered some of the questions you've asked us in the comments. The first question was sent by a player called Coral Destroyer 420. Is there a way to control different guns in planes independently? Like if a fighter has a heavier gun, I don't want to waste its ammo in a dogfight. Hello, Coral Destroyer. Hey, hopefully your nickname is a joke. Of course there is. Just go to Controls, Aircraft, and Weaponry. War Thunder Clips asks, what is the difference between the British Aden 30mm cannon and the French DEFA 30mm cannon? Hello there. Both cannons were based on the German Mauser MG213, so their specs are so similar both in real life and in the game, there's basically no difference. Another question comes from Random Stuff. Wait, what? Reversing with planes? How do you do that? Hi, Random Stuff. There's no black magic here. The Swedish SK-60B has a reverse mechanism that redirects the jet flow to enable quicker deceleration or even reverse movement on the ground. Dr. Kebab writes, it's almost impossible to take off with the Yak-38 in training mode, even when driving to the end of the carrier. The plane just doesn't have enough speed to take off. Or is it only me that has trouble with this? Greetings, Doctor. There's nothing wrong with this. The only way the Yak-38 can take off from a deck is vertically. And the last comment for today was written by Trout Warrior. I have a suggestion. How about a Last Heavies triathlon with the Mouse or E100, IS-4M, M103, AMX-50 Surbes, and Conqueror? Hello, Trout Warrior. We've had a triathlon among heavy tanks with BRs between 5.7 and 6. So how about we take a break for a while? Thanks for the idea anyway. We'll do it with these monsters too in the future. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. You don't, do you? So do it. Choose your rounds wisely and keep your ammo pool balanced. Don't get it wet, though. As things should be. Don't forget to leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and we'll see you hopefully next week.